This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today we are returning to the Soviet jungles as we break down even more of Snake's weaponry, this time in Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
It's one of the better video game AKs that I've seen, albeit with a few minor issues.
He's not watched Mythbusters either.
He's not watched Mythbusters, and like Warhammer Orcs, that means that his gun performs really well in water.
Yes, Jonathan knows Orc lore, we did it! We took some incredible deep dives while recording this episode, so if you want to see the extended director's cut edition of this video, then be sure to check out our Patreon. But now, without further ado, it's over to Jonathan.
I heard that you're an expert on weapons, equipment, and cutting-edge technology.
Close.
Huh?
I am the expert on weapons, equipment, and cutting-edge technology.
Actually, I think you're fine. That's Jonathan Ferguson, Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which has a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history.
I would not say that. It's a much higher res Mark 22 Hush Puppy, which you saw last time. Here is ours. Without its suppressor, very sadly.
They have done a really great job of keeping the core of the game basically the same, but making it look so much better. Looking at them back to back, it's quite mad. Seeing that level of improvement over a few years.
I assume the text is the same as for this sort of background information. I assume that hasn't changed. It's just been re-voice acted.
Not even that. It's the exact same audio.
Oh, they must have just remastered it, I guess. Okay. I didn't really kind of super critique in detail the model of the gun. The graphics were obviously a lot more basic in the original game. This looks good. Maybe the barrel might be a little too long based on that side view there. It looks like the barrel might be protruding a little far before we hit the threading. Yeah, looking really good. I mean, they did a hell of a job with the original game at that time, I think. I think the graphics are really good.
Oh, yeah.
I still take issue with their centerfire cartridge firing pistol somehow also being a tranquilizer gun.
You can see much more of the animations now. And one of the things that they changed for this gun in particular is there's drop on the munition. So you sort of need to aim a little higher to make sure that over range, the different ballistics of this tranquilizer round are hitting the target.
Yeah, I saw someone... oh, wow. Interesting crocodile head there. I saw someone mention that the reason for the pistol being somehow a tranquilizer pistol was to do with the pacifist message of the game. I mean, if that was the goal, they only did it to that pistol. And he's perfectly happy to use lethal weapons as well. I guess, can you make it through the whole game only using the non-lethal pistol? The bosses alone need killing, don't they?
You can, but even if you take down the bosses non-lethally, they blow up. So there'll be characters that will die in cutscenes or, things like that. But you can be as non-lethal as possible.
It's got me thinking through the practicalities of, like, if you could launch a tiny but extremely potent knockout drug using 9mm ammo, essentially. Even if you could do that, you'd have to hit them. It'd be like a taser, really. You'd have to hit them on either thin clothing or exposed skin for it to deliver the payload. Shooting them in heavy clothing or especially body armor is not going to inject any toxin. There really were projects to create poison-delivering bullets. Unfortunately, the Nazis, at least, if not the Soviets, they may have as well, tested theirs on prisoners. Hopefully, the Americans didn't. They also developed their own attempts, and they all basically gave it up at different times. I think aconite, or aconitin, was one of the toxins used. They were not intending to put people to sleep. Well, they were, but forever sleep. It was about guaranteeing death, because that's I think we've probably mentioned before, pistol bullets don't actually guarantee death. And so if you're an assassin and you can only get one shot in, you want to try and guarantee eventual death. Hence the Georgy Markov umbrella gun with its ricin containing pellet. That's a tiny little projectile, completely non-lethal in its own right, but it delivered ricin, which would kill you over a period of time. And that's the sad reality of, if this is a pacifist sort of message that they're delivering here, the reality of bullets like that is that they were very much for killing people.
Think you can pull the trigger?
Right, so the scene we've just seen there is the Jet Li style slide assembly removal. Wasn't that done on a different pistol last time, or am I losing the plot already?
No, the boss disassembles many a weapon through her appearances in this game.
Oh, that was it. It was in 1911. The animation I saw last time was on a 1911. And someone quite rightly pointed out that you can, in fact, disassemble a 1911 that way. And because I said you couldn't do that. You can do that, you just shouldn't. Because the result is that the spring goes kinking out of the bottom of the gun. So I was a bit too definitive saying that you couldn't take it off that way. You could, but you can't do it the way it's shown. Put it that way.
Hey, you've got an M1911A1.
Yeah, a 45. 50 years since the Army adopted the first model, and they're still using them. It's a real gem of an automatic pistol.
I would tend to agree that the 1911 is a real gem of a pistol, especially in this time frame. I think we talked last time about the difficulty of suppressing the 1911, and we do have one that is presumably successfully suppressed. We haven't fired it, so not really sure. Suppressed recoil-operated pistols, not common in this era because of the lack of the Nielsen device to allow the thing to cycle with all that mass hanging off the front of the tilting barrel.
Go home.
It's a very cool animation. That's pretty good. She's just punching out the disassembly pin and quickly removing the slide assembly. What actually happens if you do that is the spring beats you to it, essentially, and tries to go flying out. But apart from that detail, it's fine. If you have a 1911, don't disassemble it that way. Not critical, but you might not enjoy the results. I think someone in the comments last time said they did that once in a forest and the spring went merrily on its way somewhere.
45, huh?
So, same custom 1911 as last time, with some weird flats on the suppressor, which I don't really understand.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a specific suppressor they're modelling off, but I can't recall seeing a suppressor like that.
No, there wouldn't really be a reason for it. The modern suppressors that have flat sides are designed that way. You know, they have their internal volume, they're different, they're taller to compensate for not being round and having flatter sides. It's about keeping the width of the overall package. To have flat and round profile doesn't make any sense because you're reducing the internal volume of the suppressor by doing that without making it any narrower on the gun. So that's been done for sort of artistic reasons. If anyone knows of a suppressor shaped like that, by all means comment about it. But I would question as to why on earth anyone would do that. It's also going to mean you're going to need different shaped baffles in the square bit, the flat-sided bit, than the rounded bit fore and after bit. So that's a bit of a head-scratcher. Pistol itself looks basically the same as last time, but nicer, and is, as I think I said before, based on rather later custom 1911s than this time frame, but not implausible. Maybe this is the first one in this universe. Things like the front slide serrations, more of a 1980s thing, even the skeletonized trigger. This is our only suppressed 1911. Now, as I say, there's an inherent issue with recoil-operated pistols like this and a great big heavy weight on the end of them, in that the barrel has to tilt and drop at the rear for the slide to uncouple and cycle and extract and eject and feed. Modern suppressors do that with a sprung doohickey called a Nielsen device that allows the whole thing to uncouple before this then comes back as well, like a delay. This one quite cleverly does it by attaching the suppressor to the barrel bushing, not the barrel. So you have added mass to the slide, but provided your ammunition is pokey enough, you don't get it hanging off the muzzle of the barrel itself. You can see it's not part of that. So the barrel actually inserts into the back of the suppressor as it cycles. So that's another way to suppress something like a 1911. But this is in part why suppressed pistols in the sort of World War II and immediately post that, or I guess a lot of the Cold War period, tend to be something special, like a well rod or a high standard, or the hush puppy. But there are ways around it to allow the thing to actually function. And we even have suppressed Lugers from World War II, created for SOE, that appear to have worked just fine with the suppressor hanging off the end of the barrel. So there are ways around it. That sort of makes this anachronistic, but not really, because someone could have come up with a working 1911 suppressor.
The slide's been replaced with a reinforced version, and it meshes perfectly with the frame. The frame itself has been iron welded and scraped down multiple times for maximum precision.
Piece of dialogue I missed last time, the frame itself has been iron welded and scraped down multiple times for maximum precision. I have no idea what those words mean.
It's iron within and iron without.
Iron welded is literal nonsense. Scraped down is probably just a translation thing. Iron welded, maximum. I think they're talking about the frame to slide fit. So a lot of the 1911, the GI 1911 is quite well known for having a bit of slop between its working parts, which in theory contributes to reliability, whereas competition versions have that fit sort of stoned down and custom fit, so there's very little slop at all, keeping everything nice and repeatably accurate when it comes back into battery. I assume that's what they're getting at here, but I don't know what iron welded means. There should be no iron on this pistol. It should be all steel. Incidentally, if there's anything you're thinking, why hasn't he picked up on this? Well, I'm surprised he hasn't picked up on this. It's probably because I did in the previous one about the original game. So watch that before you say that I haven't noticed something.
Yeah.
The front strap part of the frame has been checkered to make it dig into the hand. That prevents any slipping.
Checkering on the front strap, yeah. You can see this one is plain. That is a common modification to checker the front strap for grip.
The sight system's original too. It's a 3-dot type. It's got an enlarged front sight, giving it superior target sighting capability.
Sights, yes, common improvement.
The regular hammer's been replaced with a ring hammer.
We would call that a skeletonized hammer usually, rather than a ring hammer, but yes. Increases cocking control. I'm not sure it increases control over a nice big spur, but okay.
The thumb safety and the slide stop are extended to allow for more precise handling.
Yep, extended controls. On the original, they're pretty slimline because you don't want them snagging on the way out the holster. It's a classic custom competition style 1911 of the 1980s rather than the 70s. Or were we late 60s in this? I think we're late 60s.
The magazine well has been widened to make it easier to put in a new magazine.
Magazine well has been widened, yes. It looks from the close-up that it's literally been widened, which would be a problem for your very thin 1911 magazine. What that should be is a beveled magazine well, so that the entrance is wider, but the magazine well isn't wider. I think an artist has taken that a bit too literally there. Or maybe you just got it a little bit wrong, and the comment is coincidence. Either way, that does look rather wide.
The magazine catch button has been cut down low to make it harder to hit it by mistake.
Now that is not a Competition 1911 change. In fact, Competition 1911s might well have an extended magazine release, so that you can hit it without having to, because I can't hit that without rotating my hand, breaking my grip, and they don't want to do that. They want to maintain full control as they shoot. They want to hit the catch, ideally without moving their hand very much at all, if at all. So you would want an extended magazine catch. They are not the military. They're not worried about bumping the catch and the magazine falling out. He is, so perhaps making it smaller would make sense, except that I think it's very hard to hit that by accident. I haven't read or heard of anyone losing a 1911 mag because you have the grip shrouding or guarding the mag catch. So that's a curious choice. That's going to slow his reload time down quite significantly, to the point where I think you'd have to bring your offhand in to hit the mag catch. Curious detail, but the fact that the detail is even there is still nice.
The mainspring housing has been changed to a flat type to increase grip.
Yeah, the mainspring housing is this. So on the 1911A1, it's curved by default because they thought that was giving the soldier a better grip, but a lot of people do prefer the traditional flat mainspring housing and instead a longer trigger, which is what this thing has.
I've never used a weapon this fine in my life.
He really likes this thing, doesn't he?
Oh, big time.
I think I do like the fact that he's so enthusiastic about what is actually something that's believably, you know what I mean? A real professional at the time might well really like this pistol, but it isn't flashy. It's not like a, Resident Evil Samurai Edge or something, or God forbid, gold-plated or anything like that. It's low-key. Right, a very splendid-looking Type 3 in the sort of collector nomenclature. AK or AK-47, if you must. Not an invalid term. We have a video about that on our channel over at the Royal Armouries. It's a very short-lived term. So officially, it's nearly always just AK, and then AKM, of course, with the stamped metal successor. But this is the old school machined receiver, so-called Type 3 AK. This one is Hungarian, which was an exact copy of the Soviet original. I'm not sure about the checkering on the grip, actually. But apart from that, and markings, of course, it is bang on. It's actually really nicely made, this. The finish and the bluing, really nice. The wood on this is solid walnut as well, whereas I think they're replicating laminated wood on this one, I think. But really nicely made. The grip, pistol grip, is a bit weird. So this is essentially a copy of the Soviet-style grip, albeit checkered. This is actually weirdly very similar to the Hungarian AKM pattern grips with the lumps and bumps on it, but not quite. So the shape of that grip isn't quite right, I don't think. But otherwise, really nice looking. We've even got some plausible looking markings on the front trunnion there. Yeah, very nice. Correct type of gas block, correct type of muzzle nut. See what I mean by the gas block? This very vertical shape at the back, this ramped, beveled front surface, it's all there. 4 holes in the tube. Yeah, can't really fault that one other than the pistol grip. Oh, and there's no sling swivel on the receiver, which it probably should have at this era. You've got the sling loop on the front cap of the handguard rather than up here, attached to the, or not part of, but attached to the gas block. Super minor issues.
The AK-47 is the official assault rifle of the Soviet Army.
See, he's calling it an AK-47. Fine. Well, no, not fine. Actually, I am going to stand on my soapbox a little bit on that one. The first model is the sheet metal with a machined front trunnion. That's the only one you can reasonably call an AK-47. But I know that horse has sailed, and people will continue to call a pre-AKM AK an AK-47, and there's nothing much I can do to stop that. I like the fact that the bolt group moves, but I'd be very disappointed if it didn't at this point.
The fact that the fire selector moves surprised me, because that wasn't a detail that was featured in the original. You'd be hard pressed to notice it in the original, at least with those textures.
So as we've come to expect, it's maybe not fully modelled down to all the internal parts, but they have modelled all of the moving parts, and they all move. But again, in 2025, if it didn't do that, I would be quite sad. One of the better video game AKs that I've seen, albeit with a few minor issues.
He's not watched Mythbusters either.
He's not watched Mythbusters, and like Warhammer Orcs, that means that his gun performs really well in water.
Yes, Jonathan knows Orc lore. We did it.
Does that make this part of the Warhammer universe?
Everything is. Everything is canon.
I have to let you know that in real life, VZ61 cases don't spin and they don't hover off the ground, just in case you weren't aware.
Just imagine the Royal Armouries just a load of cases that are slowly spinning.
Just to prove me wrong.
Let me go fetch a gun, Dave. I can't catch it, it's spinning. So this is a gun we didn't cover last time.
Yeah.
It's used by some of the later game enemies and implied to be a bit more of a elite troop weapon. And used by motorcycle soldiers riding and firing from motorcycles later as well.
Okay, that's more plausible, because it is, as a lot of you will know, and here's one I grabbed, has a black plastic grip, but otherwise same as what we see here, except for that weird laser projector clamped onto the barrel, which is far too small for the period. That's my biggest issue by far with this. But designed as a personal defence weapon for vehicle crews and people like that, people who are not frontline infantry. So to the extent that some sort of elite units will prefer very compact automatic weapons like this, yeah, I guess, but not what its design purpose was. One of the best full auto weapons ever produced, I think, just for how much firepower there is, how controllable it is with the stock deployed, usable in semi-auto as well, but of course the limitation of the caliber. 9mm short is a little bit more potent than 32 ACP. Do you want lots of small bullets firing quickly, or do you want a slower rate but bigger bullets? Is basically the choice. So this is like the swarm of angry bees theory of firepower, as Ian likes to say.
A misspelling Scorpion, or am I crazy?
I didn't notice. What spelling are they using?
They're using a C instead of a K.
Oh, yes, they are. Although, to be fair, even CZ are misspelling Scorpion these days. The Evo 3, which is spiritually the third iteration of the Scorpion, is spelled with a C, even though they're totally different guns, so it doesn't really matter that it's spelled differently. But yeah, it should be with a K. So he doesn't use it with the stock deployed, I'm guessing.
No, he keeps the stock folded over.
I mean, that's not uncommon in criminal circles. They will just drift off the stock and use it as a one-handed weapon. I like the automatic fire from the hip there. I'm not a huge fan of the tracer effect, so they're quite subtle in this game, but it does allow you to see that fired automatic from the hip with no stock unfolded, you do get that dispersion because you haven't got the same control over the thing and it's oscillating somewhat, whatever distance that is. 25 yards, something like that. They're all roughly where you need them to be because it is that controllable. And you could do the old school 80s hip fire, 70s, 60s hip fire and look where you're shooting with this and probably hit what you're aiming at.
If you're still hungry for more, then might I suggest you check out our Patreon for a longer, deeper, extended edition of this episode. Over there, you'll also be able to get early access to our next Helldivers 2 episode featuring all of the weapons from the Halo ODST Warbond. By becoming a patron, you not only help to support the work we do here, but you'll also be able to watch all of our previous Director's Cut episodes, and you'll get each and every future episode 1 week early. Either way, whether you join the Patreon or watch along on YouTube, I want to say thank you for your support, and now I'll get back to the video.
Well, it is the 1960s, so a stoner seems appropriate.
Was that a pun?
No. A bit.
The term system weapon refers to a design where most of the parts are interchangeable, allowing you to create a lot of different variations from a single original model.
Yes, good description of the modular Stoner 63.
Modelling the different ejection ports for the links and the cartridges as well?
Yes. I don't think the game lets you mix and match parts in the way that he's explaining.
No.
No, bit of a shame. It's such an interesting game because it operates like a sort of coffee table gun book as well as being a game. And I would have loved it at the time for that reason alone. Had I played it, I'm sure of that. It's gun nerdy enough, and the nitpicks that I pick up on now, I wouldn't have picked up on then almost certainly, so... I like the get some screaming he's doing, but yeah, XM207 XM207 E1 to be precise, marked on the side. Pretty much what he's got here. There are a couple of slight variations of this configuration. Slightly different gas blocks, shorter barrels used on some of the ones in Vietnam as well, but this looks to be identical to ours. That door on the side that he's flipping shut on the reload does exist. It's not just a door to cover the rounds, it's also how you get the box in. So it's almost like a magazine reload, but with a box of a belt. Really an ideal weapon for jungle use. Lots of controllable firepower in a relatively small and light package. Might be my favourite implementation of this in a game, actually. I think because it feels so appropriate to the setting and the period, as well as being well done.
And his screaming.
And the screaming. Gotta admit, that really adds something.
It's funny, when you stop firing in the middle of him screaming, it's like you're interrupting him. So just like dead cut, but like, oh, excuse me. Oh, I need to check myself.
I do apologise. Did you happen to notice when he's reloading, is he using the cocking handle under the handguard?
He is, yeah.
That's unique to this setup of the Stoner 63. The so-called Bren style light machine gun doesn't use that. It has the normal cocking setup. Right, slight mistake there is that the bracket for the belt box has this very substantial metal support because the box itself is just a lightweight plastic container with no means of clipping onto the bottom of the gun. So they've either modelled a different belt box setup that I'm not familiar with. The most famous setup being a big drum mag, by the way, which isn't on this or the game gun. But yeah, it doesn't clip straight onto the bottom of the gun as implied in the game. There is a whole attached sort of armature here for the belt box to slide into. So they haven't represented that. The gun itself looks good.
Because I think Sigyn does mention that The variant you've got there is the light machine gun variant, also eschewing the customization options.
There was a bipod available for these, but the ones used in Vietnam didn't have them fitted. It's questionably a light machine gun if it has no bipod. More of a quote-unquote assault machine gun, as the modern term would have it. Or a squad automatic weapon, if you prefer. Although, of course, lots of squad automatic weapons do have bipods. Start putting these away on the other side of the trolley, running out of room.
Ah, you've got an SVD. That's the Soviets' top-of-the-line semi-automatic sniper rifle, adopted just last year.
Last year? This is earlier in the 60s than I remembered.
SVD stands for the Russian words that mean Dragunov Semi-Automatic Sniper Rifle. It can use the same ammo as the Mosin Nagant, 7.62mm by 54 rim cartridges, but they developed a new type of ammo with a tighter firing pattern to go along with it.
Yep, they did issue specific sniper rounds. It's made to a higher standard, basically. Pretty common for sniper rifles. Now, this is questionably a sniper rifle by sort of period Western standards, but literally called a sniper rifle in Soviet terms, but was really the forerunner of the modern designated marksman rifle. Rapid aim shots out to 800 meters, basically, but without worrying too much about where you're hitting them at 800 meters. They've even got the correct sight reticle. Can confirm.
You know, I told you about the weird way you could take out the end when we talked about the original release? That you could turn your console off and go away for a while?
Yeah.
When he's introduced, he's sleeping. So after the cutscene ends, you have a very small fraction of time that you can shoot him while the soldiers are stood with him. And if you do that, the boss fight just doesn't happen.
Amazing.
It just skips the entire boss fight.
I'm a big fan of that.
That's one of the main reasons to grab the SVD just before this part, is so you can speed run the end fight.
I love that idea of just like Indiana Jonesing the boss fight.
Snake does have to wrestle with the fact that doing it that way, you're just shooting a sleeping old man, but
yeah. A very dangerous sleeping old man. Tanking headshots.
Yeah, you can only do that while he's awake.
Yeah, curious actually. Yeah, perfectly reasonable representation of the SVD. Yeah, they've even got right the fact that the SVD magazine doesn't look right on the real thing. I always think, because of that weird shape to the receiver and the way it, if you take it out, it latches in not very far into the receiver, unlike an AK. So it looks for all the world like it's sort of not in properly, I always think. But they've faithfully represented that.
There's no need to prove that you are virtuous here. This isn't America.
Now, this was the source of some controversy last time. The game insists that it has much increased recoil because of the short barrel, and I insisted that that's the opposite, and a short barrel reduces recoil because you're building up much less pressure and there is much less rearward impulse as a result. I stand by that. Someone did point out that with a short gas system, the weapon runs faster and with higher bolt velocity, so you are getting increased recoil of the working parts. That's quite true, but that does not offset the drop in felt recoil from a very short barrel. And while I'm looking at them, the bullets tumbling from the barrel, I think they're looking at the short barrel on this and going, it's not long enough to properly stabilize the ammunition. That could happen, but it's more dependent on the twist rate of the barrel than the length of the barrel. If you get the twist rate right for the ammunition type, the bullets are still they're going to lose velocity very quickly and have lower initial velocity, but they're not going to come out tumbling. You could engineer or modify your weapon to make the bullets tumble like this almost immediately as they exit the muzzle, but it wouldn't be a good idea. You may as well be using a shotgun at that point.
I'll give you 10 minutes.
There was a part of me that was... I was considering getting a Snake cosplay for this episode and just never mentioning it to you and just sitting here dressed like Snake,
That would be
knowing that you wouldn't
amazing.
see until the end of the episode.
I'm now retroactively disappointed that you haven't done that.
Maybe in a future episode, maybe, I don't know, if someone wants to hook me up with a 3D printed Helldivers outfit, I'll just sit here in a helmet and a cape and never mention it.
Well, I know a guy, so Now that I look at this carry handle, it looks a bit of a funny shape. It's a bit acute an angle at the back. Yeah, it should be more of a shallow slant and more of a curvature there. The proportions of the upper receiver aren't quite there. Oh, and by the way, people who think that this should indeed have more recoil than a longer AR-15, it's got a flipping brake on the end of it. It's got a muzzle device designed to control recoil. Now, you could say that the thing has got so much recoil that it needs that, and it would be even worse without it on there. But that just adds to the thesis that this thing should not be that hard to control. Maybe we're going to have to dig out a super short AR-15 from the collection and shoot it to prove this point. Maybe that's what these comments are trying to get me to do.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm for them.
We don't have many super short guns, but I'll see what I can do. This gun has that slightly, I don't know how to explain it, but it's very common in media generally, that kind of tinny sounding gunshot. Like someone's clanking some nuts and bolts as well as the gun is firing. Often, usually used for like LMGs to imply the feed mechanism. Yeah, needless to say, this thing is a practical weapon. Not only if you're in a vehicle, and even then it's a bit bulky and heavy to be whipping out of the footwell.
Well, one of the few ways that M16 without a stock features is as a port firing weapon, right?
Yeah, I was thinking more as a sort of covert weapon where you basically put a lot of bullets between you and the bad guys and drive away at speed. That kind of car gun where you don't need to shoulder it really anyway. It could work for that. But drum magazines are never really advisable. You're taking a hit on reliability. Right, here we go again.
Brace yourself for the meow, because we'll see it again.
Inglorious HD.
Yeah, hopefully the improved visuals assist in breaking down some of Ocelot's nonsense. I've included some more of his arc, so spoilers beware, I guess.
I do like the cleaning rod on the Makarov holster, by the way. I don't think that was there before. There he is ejecting his live first round. And successfully firing some shots. So the official line of the game is that he always racks the slide before firing, so he can be absolutely certain that there's a round chambered. That's referenced as being a technique used in the Middle East. Now that is for sure, we had a debate in the comments about this last time, that is for sure a reference to so-called Israeli carry. To briefly explain what that is the result of the Israeli armed forces, because of the way they were instituted, had kit from all over the world. They flew Spitfires alongside Messerschmitts. They had all sorts of different tanks, all sorts of different small arms, and they decided that their drills would reflect all the different controls and setups of the different guns, and they would always carry with the chamber empty. So it wouldn't matter what safeties were fitted, or you wouldn't have to know how to necessarily operate them. You would simply carry them in what's also known in the States as condition 3. Magazine on the weapon, so loaded, not chambered. And then part of the draw would be to operate the slide. That's what Israeli carry is. It is not carrying it with a loaded chamber and then mindlessly racking out a live round. Nobody does that. Nobody with any sense would do that. There is no advantage to doing that. That's what press checks are for, where you slightly pull back the slide and make sure you see brass, or you verify if it has a loaded chamber indicator, or even just you might know from the extractor being slightly popped out, although you wouldn't want to rely on that. Point is, no one's doing it. That's not what Israeli carry is. So he's left with, and I forgot to count rounds again, but let's say that was accurate, and he's left with 1 round in the chamber. There's the meow.
There was a comment last time that was like, Dave, don't show him the meow, don't show him the meow, don't show him the meow. Oh, damn it.
I saw that. That was very funny. All right, so let's go back and look at his final shot so that we can establish the condition of the weapon, which means I've been subjected to the meow again. It's the head movement that really gets me.
Makes the final shot, the case extracts.
Case does indeed eject and extract successfully, so there should in fact be a round chambered. Let's follow it through from there. So we know the state of the weapon. We've got 1 round in the chamber. So when I said last time that I would have to guess it was a failure to extract the original case, the final shot, and therefore it's a double feed, can't be the case in theory, because there should be a live round in that chamber. He's already ejected his magazine. There goes the fresh magazine in there. He racks the slide, and we get a double feed of a live round in the chamber and a new live round trying to enter the chamber, but there's already a live round in there. So people saying that there's some kind of limp wristing deal going on here, completely irrelevant because he hasn't fired that shot. That shot's still in the chamber, unfired. He's trying to rack it out per his ridiculous habit, and it doesn't feed properly. Now, it is possible to badly fumble the operation of a slide so that it doesn't fully fly forward and chamber around, but that's not relevant here either because there is a live round still in the chamber. So the only thing that can be happening here, which I think I did suggest at one point in the comments as another alternative, is that the weapon has failed to extract the live round he wants to get rid of for reasons best known to him. So the extractor has broken is perhaps the most realistic scenario. The little claw has snapped off due to all of the misuse of the pistol he gives it. Seems unlikely, but it's possible. I think it's a 1 in a million that it would just jump off the rim of the round, and then it's tried to feed the next round in, and it's hit the back. There's one query I still have with that, which is, do we get to see, have they animated a case coming out, or round coming out, I should say? Because if they have, that's a straight up animation cock up. Let's give it one last run. I think I'm getting the meow again. Oh God, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
That's like the 5th time now. So, live round in the chamber. He's gonna rack it. Does anything come out? Is my final query on this one.
I think it's only just obscured, maybe
Probably
by
don't
design.
see it, do we? Yeah. I certainly don't remember seeing it last time, but I haven't gone back through that one with a fine-tooth comb like I'm doing now.
So he only finishes the movement. Only the end of the movement is on screen.
Yeah. So that's kind of a red herring then. Let's assume that nothing comes out because we know that there's a live round in the chamber.
Although if I go frame by frame,
Oh God.
it looks like
Save me.
you can see him rack the slide, but and this is like really stretching, but it doesn't look like he racks it all the way back. It looks like he only might go halfway.
Do you know what? Wait there. Right.
Did a meow as well.
So, we've got a magazine of drill rounds. They look a bit funky, but they are the same dimensions and everything as a proper 9mm Mac round, which these are really well represented, by the way. They look good. We need a live round in the chamber, because we know that's what's in there. So, let's lock it open. Drop a live round in. Chamber it. Ready to go. We see the magazine go in, slaps that in there, and then he does what we're suggesting is somehow a fumbled reload. But in fact, there's just no way. So no matter what you do, that extractor claw grips that live round and tries to pull it out, which means that it's always going to get ejected. Like there is one way in which it might fail. We very, very slowly, there we go. If it pops out, we can get a stovepipe jam, a failure to eject. But that's not what we see. What we see there is a failure to extract the live round in the first place. That has to be a broken extractor spring, something that's allowing the claw to pop over the rim and not rip out that live round. So let's do what's actually happening. Right, so we can't simulate this without removing or breaking the extractor exactly, but what we can do is leave a live round in the chamber. The magazine is on there. He has pulled back the slide. The live round has not been extracted. What happens when you do that? This is what happens. So it's nowhere near as dramatic looking as you just saw in the game, because those feed lips keep that next round much lower down. So it can't pop up as much as it has here, but it has nonetheless, the nose of that next round has run into the case head on that chambered live round. A double feed, which means the failure was a failure to extract, leaving him with a useless gun. So it's nothing to do with Israeli carry, and it is not a plausible failure other than a mechanical failure, which means it's not his fault, aside from his weird habit of manually cycling around out of his gun. It's just an unfortunate incident. So criticizing him for trying out a new technique I mean, you could definitely, you can blame him for continuing to use that stupid technique of cycling the round out because it's caused this malfunction. Had he just shot him with the live round in the chamber, presumably it would have fired. It wouldn't have chambered the next round successfully because you'd still have got a fired case in there that wouldn't come out, but he still would have shot him the one time. So yes, you can criticise him for his weird technique, but actually, you had no reasonable person could expect a Makarov extractor to fail like that, leaving him unable to fire even one round. That's where we are with this whole mess. Is that it still doesn't make sense. There's no way to make it make sense, except that what I've shown you, that it's an unfortunate mechanical failure combined with a weird habit, which leaves him up a certain watercourse without a particular implement.
Yeah, what Jonathan said.
And I've tried that more than once, and that's what results, unsurprisingly.
That has to be the most comprehensive breakdown of Ocelot's nonsense that the world has ever seen.
I mean, you've driven me to it with your comments. When I say I've gone through it multiple times as well, I'm not talking about simulating the double feed. That is going to happen regardless. What I'm talking about is a live round in the chamber, magazine on the gun. No matter how you yank that slide back, it is always going to extract the case. It may not eject correctly. It may get stuck in the ejection port like it did for me. So you can induce a malfunction. It just ain't that malfunction.
The round that gets finally ejected because of the concussive force of his gun falling on the ground, that actually comes back a bit later.
Okay. How does that happen? God damn it.
He disarms him and the gun flies into the air and then bashes off the ground.
Well, that in itself might be a problem. Yeah, the comedy guy that's tranquilised did amuse me, I have to say. So the gun in its jammed state goes flying through the air, hits the deck. That's also not possible. There is a fired primer on that round as well, by the way. But let's overlook that, because let's be honest, movies frequently have fired primers on their dummy rounds for safety reasons. Ignoring that, there's basically no way to drop this and have that round come flying out, unless there's been a second mechanical failure of this weapon, and the feed lips on the magazine have spread open somehow. That would explain why it's sitting nose high in the magazine, and also why an impact on the ground could make it go flying out. The only way to make all of this make sense is that his extractor has failed to work, and then a round has coincidentally, it doesn't really matter, popped part way out of the magazine, and then when it hits the ground, has flown the rest of the way out of the magazine. So that is two separate mechanical failures with what is known to be a very reliable pistol. That's the only way you'd get that out without it being sticking out too far because of a broken magazine. So I now have my little ejected round.
I see what you were trying to do, but testing a technique you've only heard about in the middle of battle wasn't very smart. You were asking to have your gun jam on you.
So that's all fine. You were asking to have your gun jam on you. Yeah, I agree with that. If you're going to fumble your pointless slide operation, there's every chance of a jam. It's just a stovepipe type jam, not a double feed, because of the mechanical reality of how the Makarov works. This is why you need consultants on your video. Not really, it's fine. I mean, if you want to, please do, but...
Automatic weapons use recoil to operate, so if you don't let the recoil hit you, it interferes with the operating cycle of the gun. Basically, he shouldn't be trying to avoid the impact like that.
So part of the same bit of information, I think, not a separate one, is that he also limp wrists a semi-auto. So they are implying here that the cause of the stoppage, the person who commented this is quite right, they are implying that as well as, well, it's two things, that it's needlessly cycling around a live round out of the gun, true, and it's also because he limp wrists his gun. Well, it can't be because he isn't firing that shot. That might be a problem for him otherwise, and why he should use a revolver going forward, but it isn't why that stoppage happened. It can't be. There's no way limp wristing causes an extractor to fail, to put it another way. The basics of what they're saying about recoil for self-loading weapons, you have to hold them in a certain way, or certainly recoil-operated weapons, you have to hold them in a certain way for them to cycle properly. That's correct. And it's a theoretical advantage of a revolver if your technique with self-loading pistols is truly abysmal, but not relevant to what we saw. I'm half tempted to write a version of this that makes sense.
6 shots. That thing only carries 6 shots. The Makarov carries 8. You have to get a feel for how many you have left.
Mind you, that does fit with his silly cycling of his Makarov, doesn't it? Because the guy can't count. That's the explanation for all of this, except for the extractor breaking, is that he just can't count. So he doesn't know when he's got a round left, even though it should lock open, shouldn't it? Unless it's just... That's the other explanation, is his Makarov is absolutely shagged and it doesn't work. So it doesn't reliably lock open, doesn't reliably extract, so he cocks it by pulling the slide back. No, it doesn't make sense. I saw someone had posted the mocap actor.
Yeah, you've seen
for this.
the mocap video now. Yeah.
That's right. I should have known that it would be a Japanese guy. There's a big, or was certainly, I assume still is, a big sort of subculture of Western stuff, Western shooting in Japan. Well, I don't know about big. It existed, so they didn't have to go to America to find somebody that could do this quick draw, spinny, tricky stuff, exhibition type shooting. It's kind of strange that he started out spinning his Makarov and only goes to revolver because Snake tells him to. At which point he goes all in on the spinning of the pistols. It feels like he would have started out with a revolver that's known for spinning and then done that with a self-loading pistol. I don't know.
So you're in the cutscene with in the sewer now.
Yeah.
So he's still got that round from the previous encounter. And with the original's graphics, I thought that silver band was just something to keep on a chain. What it is so he can put that Makarov round into the single action army because he's determined to shoot Snake with this one round now. So it makes it fit into the revolver.
Yeah. Should have seen that coming.
Which I couldn't find much discussion about that in the original. I think a lot of people, and we were discussing on the Discord, a lot of people similarly thought it was just a clasp to keep it as a necklace, but no, it's a little piece of metal, so it fits in a revolver cylinder.
Yeah, so that is, depending on the diameter of the band, that's possible, especially if you tapered the band slightly. The problem with it is that it's a rimless round, so in theory that could drop through the cylinder if it was too loose. If there's enough friction to hold it in place, but the hammer comes in and starts to hit the primer and shoves it forward while striking it and you don't get ignition of the primer, that would be my main concern. If it's a nice tight fit and he's having to kind of really thumb it in there, then there'd be enough resistance when the hammer falls to strike the primer and fire the round. So we'll give that a plausible. This is turned into Mythbusters. Yes, the bullet would not quite rattle, but would not get full obturation, so reduced velocity. It would not be gripped by the rifling grooves, so limited accuracy. But this is the kind of thing that's done by sort of desperate criminals to fire the wrong ammo in the weapon that they have. So it's not without precedent, and it can work. Don't try it at home.
Huh. It doesn't feel right to shoot an unarmed man.
This is literally the last thing that happens in the game. You're escaping on a plane and Ocelot confronts you and you're challenged to a sort of duel, but his one round is now in one of those guns and he makes you pick which gun you want. The game literally makes you walk towards the gun you want to pick it. To get this ending, I pick the incorrect gun.
What a strange chap.
After all this, I wouldn't be going through this song and dance. I'd just be chucking you off the plane.
Exactly. And then we get the back-to-back walking away dueling thing, which I don't think I've ever read about being a thing in period, but it's become a bit of a trope.
So I know my gun is empty at this point. I know that Ocelot has the gun with the bullet in.
It's a pretty... feels like a bit of an anticlimax. Like the tension just kind of... I suppose it should be increasing.
So he shoots me.
It's a blank.
No, it isn't.
Oh, that was fun.
I mean, it could be. He could have had the round remade into some special blank with a frangible fake bullet on it, or done a sleight of hand thing and loaded a blank into the pistol instead of his special round that he kept.
It was all a triple cross to convince the Russians around him that he was on their side, because he was in fact the contact you were meant to meet at the beginning of the game before Eva hits him with a motorbike.
Okay.
So you were meant to meet a guy called Adam at the start of the game. His name is Adamska. Eve is actually working for the Chinese, which is why she has a Chinese pistol. And
I mean, come on. Maybe don't use a Chinese pistol if you don't want...
to keep his cover intact, Ocelot plays on his desire to beat Snake until it climaxes, and he just goes, haha, pranked, for all intents and purposes.
How many, at this point, hours of my life have I spent deconstructing this game only to find out that it was pointless?
That's Metal Gear.
Except that. Here we go again. So that whole jam stoppage situation is somehow engineered by him.
That is not clear, because it would be a real stretch of the imagination for him to be like, right, I'm going to make sure this one round is a blank.
Wait a second.
Because you're thinking it's got a struck cartridge.
It doesn't make sense. No, that's not what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is, does the explanation somehow make sense if he's doing it deliberately, i.e. modified the weapon to have that stoppage? But no, it doesn't, because we see him use the exact same gun successfully multiple times, showing that the extractor functions just fine. The only way that could work if it was deliberate, and it would make the whole thing make sense, is if his... hang on, I think I've got it. I think I've made this silly game make sense. If this was a plan all along, then the final round in his magazine has a rebated rim, so that the extractor can't grip it, thus inducing a double feed when he does his let's extract the live round for no reason thing, which could have been made up as a thing because actually he's a double agent, meaning that he did induce that stoppage. Then he swaps that one out for a blank that he's had made specially. Maybe it was already the blank he had made specially, although the rim on that... This relies on a substantially rebated rim, which I think you'd be able to see in the cutscene on this HD version of the game. But that could work. But it would mean that he has to be a truly expert marksman to take out all the guys and not have to use that last round that he has deliberately put in there to induce that double feed.
Against what you believed earlier, it relies on him actually being able to count very well.
Yes, yeah. That's what I'm going with. The only way this makes sense, although it doesn't really make sense that Snake and his mate wouldn't spot... And that, mind you, they didn't get a great view of the gun, did they? So they might believe it was a different stoppage than it actually was. So I can make this work amazingly against all odds. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That was probably the longest one we've ever done on one game.
Yeah, it will be.
I didn't expect it to be. I thought it would be shorter because we'd already covered the game, but I think a good portion of that was writing some weirdness of the first time. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed. Let us know what games, movies, TV shows or beyond you'd like to see on the show. And, of course, subscribe. As always, a massive shout out to all of our supporters over on the EXP Patreon for supporting the work we do here and for helping us make cool content like this. Links to support Jonathan and the Royal Armouries will, of course, be in the description below, so make sure you check those out. But until next episode, thank you again for watching, and we will see you real soon.
Snake, try to remember some of the basics of CQC.
Commencing virtuous mission now.